and welcome back to Lisa at the Edge. I am super pleased to have the amazing Gwyn with me today. Say hey to the people.
Hi, people. Thank you for the invite and for having me. I know we've been trying to figure this out for a while, but it's great to finally be here.
Yes, it's awesome. So we've got you on the show today to talk all about your career in tech so far, because it's been a little bit of a whirlwind. I definitely feel like you are someone who has a story which can inspire, which can also provide probably people with some tips and guidance as well in terms of their own sort of career in tech. And then we've had a few discussions already and we've sort of delved into some deeper topics. So I'm sure they will naturally occur. We can talk about women in tech, how we feel about that, social media presence, the good, the bad, the ugly. And yeah, so we'll get into that as well. So first off, let's do a little bit of a formal introduction. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Gwyn, Pena, Siguenza. I'm about to start Microsoft as a cloud advocate next. Well, actually, depending on when this comes out, but Monday. And
I think yes. So you'll have started by the time this comes out.
Okay. So yeah, I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. Prior to that, I was at A Cloud Guru as a community training architect, a cloud engineer before that, a sysadmin, Helpdesk. I worked at an Apple store. And before that, I dropped out of computer science, and that's kind of like my very, very, very short,
short version,
description version of my time in tech. I'm I guess a cloud YouTuber or something like that. I more consider myself a person in tech who makes videos, because I talk about not only like tutorials but also just experiences that I've had. I was an Azure MVP, but I had to retire, of course, for a good reason. And yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell.
That's you in a nutshell, but we're going to crack open that nutshell and we're going to dive in deeper. So just quickly, your summary there, because you tweeted about this recently. How many years does that span? The sort of dropping out the Apple tech, the help desk, the sysadmin, the cloud architect. How many years does that span? Because it's not a lot, is it?
So I from dropping out. So I dropped out in 20. I think it was 2013.
Okay.
That whole time in my life was a complete blur. So I believe it was 2013. And then till landing at my most recent job, which was like a month ago. That's what 7 years ish. 7, 8, about time. 7, 8 years ish, roughly. So definitely not like a long time, but I think just because of the changes that I've made and the risks that I've been able to take, everything just seems like, like I tweeted that because it was just like looking back at my career, and it's so easy to forget of like the things that you actually have put yourself through.
Yep.
Though it might seem short, it's like, oh my goodness, I really have. I've been through quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think. I think sort of I was making the point there that it was short because I've had people on who started in the help desk and then they've moved up like yourself, but they've done it over a longer period of time. And I think also those people are, forgive me for saying this, previous guests, but older. So they did it at a time where, we didn't have what we have now, which is like, I think we've always had a tech community, right? There's always been tech user groups, etc. I think Twitter in the tech community has definitely been around for a long time. But I think over the last few years, with everything getting a lot more virtual, and then definitely over the last couple of years with COVID, that's kind of exploded. And I think the opportunities are there to do that faster. So, okay, let's get stuck in. So why did you decide to do a major in computer science? Did you always want to be in tech?
That's a good question. Did I always want to? I always had an interest, I guess, but I'm not going to lie and say I was like a child prodigy. I was coding or building computers when I was 6 or anything like that. And I've had like multiple interests my entire life. Like I was very big into sports and music and computers and such, but I never really focused on anything. I was just kind of like living my life. And when it came to, being a senior in high school and you got to pick like, oh, what's the next big step? And in terms of education, I was considering journaling because I always liked, journalism, because I always liked sort of like the content aspect of things, like communicating things, which is interesting because it comes full circle with YouTube, but we'll get to that later. Yeah. Or computer science. That was kind of just like the two areas that I focused. And my parents were like, you should go with computer science if you want to make a decent living. Yeah. And that was really just why I went into it. There's like no epiphany moment or no nothing like that. It was just like, all right, I guess that's what I should do. And then I enrolled in college for computer science.
And then how long were you there before you decided, nah, this is not the route for me?
Yeah, I think I did 2 full semesters, and I might have been starting my 3rd one when I dropped out. Okay. But yeah, I did a lot of my programming knowledge, like my basic, like the things that like translate across every single language, that kind of stuff. I learned in my first, like the time that I was there, right? So I took like intro to programming and programming 1 in college. And then after, about, I want to say it was like maybe 2.5 semesters or something, I dropped out. Yeah. There was multiple reasons. Like, I don't want to just say like university wasn't for me. I think a lot of it was, timing. And, when you're that age, you think you're invincible and like you're so much better than everything and anything else, and you know so much more than anybody, and there's sort of like an ego issue. I had that going on too. I had some family stuff going on too. It was just such a delicate time in life for me that I couldn't focus. I think I tweeted about this too. Like if college was something that we had, say, like a couple of years between like graduating from high school and a couple of years of actually just living life and then figuring out what did we wanted to spend money and spend our time into, I would have done so much better at it. And I'm not, contrary to what people believe, I'm not like anti-college or anti-college degree or anything like that. No, I love education. And it's something that I've been thinking about now, like as I have like, I make way more money now and stuff like that. Right. But at that time, it just didn't work for me. And I had to like figure out other ways.
I think people tend to freak out a little bit when someone shares their story of success that did not start with education. And I'm not I could make some guesses as to why I think that is, but let's maybe not go down that path right now. People do tend to freak out. And I think when people share their success stories and they didn't have the traditional route through education, I think that's not a threat to education. Like the fact of the matter is that education is the norm. It's what's like plowed into your mind as soon as you go to school. I mean, that's not going away. But what we do need to do is we need to share those stories that don't follow that traditional route, because there are so many kids out there, so many young people out there that it's not the route for them. Whether it's like you say, some people are just too young. We go through that little I know everything stage. I definitely there. I didn't get on with my maths. Like I really struggled in high school with maths, right? Really, really struggled. I had to work hard at it. And I got into higher maths in like the last 2 years of school at Scotland and in Scotland. And I was really struggling. And I also really struggled because I couldn't see a real life application for it, which also just really, I hated it, going to be brutally honest. And my maths teacher said to me one day, bless her, she was actually a very good teacher. But she said to me, you'll never get anywhere without higher maths. So all that did for me is that triggered the rebellious in me that said, well, challenge accepted. And I walked out of class and I walked down to the corridor and I dropped higher maths. Now, we've digressed slightly, but I think it's important to share those stories and those examples because, like I say, there are many, many young people out there that for whatever reason, education is not available to them, or it's not a path that they can see themselves in. And we can't risk, especially in the industry like tech, missing out on those people. Right. Because we want to force them all down this route that really we can talk about the pros and cons of having a degree before you start to the end of time. But the fact of the matter is that I think you can do just as good a job or get to places where you want to be without a degree than as you can with a degree. And it's really up to the personal preference on how they like to approach things and the path that they want to take. And I think it's never a helpful conversation to start to try and dictate what path people should take. It's more helpful to share the options.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think, well, I mean, this whole topic is just one that there's like so much, like, education itself, especially here in the US, is just so expensive, right? That's like right off the bat. Like it's a privilege to be able to, attend a school, and not get into debt for it, right? Because I have friends who have like $80,000, $120,000 in college debt, and they end up, working well into like 10 years of their career before they can actually start making money that they're not paying back, right? That kind of stuff too. And it's not like, because education is the key. It's just, it doesn't have to be in say like a 4-year format, like college is. And then, I'm very passionate about.
I think it's like a key. I think there are multiple keys.
Yeah.
The way in which education can be delivered.
Absolutely.
There are multiple ways now.
Absolutely. Like with online learning and all. Well, yeah, we can get into this if you like a whole episode, but I just said, like, I'm not anti-college or anything like that. I'm just, let's provide more options for people versus there's not just degree versus no degree. Like there's many ways, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. So after those 2 semesters, were you still keen on doing something within the tech industry?
Yeah. So I actually studied, high school and those 2 semesters of college, I was living in South America, in Ecuador. I'd moved there when so I'm from the US, and then I'd moved to Ecuador when I was I think I was like 12 or something. And then when I dropped out, I was sort of faced with like, well, what do I actually do with my life? So I figured I might have more opportunities or maybe a more clear mind if I just like moved and start fresh somewhere else. So I moved back to the US and I didn't have any work experience or anything really on paper that I could show. So I kind of just leaned into what I sort of knew. So I was familiar with, technology and some programming, but no one was going to hire me at some kind of like, any kind of dev job or any kind of those jobs in general. So I landed a job at like an Apple store. And from there, I was like, all right, I know I don't want to be here forever. So I'm just going to see what I can use in this role and at this job to kind of learn more and propel me into the next step, even if it's just like saving money, right? Because that's a big thing too, that we always try to focus on, like, what can I learn? But ultimately jobs also provide us, an income. And if anything, like having income and having money, my mindset was always like, I need to have that cushion. So if I do need to take my next step, or I need to take a risk, or if I have to leave or whatever it is, I have that cushion to have, like, I can fall on for a little bit. So yeah, I focused there. And then, because at an Apple store, like, you start by like selling things, like no one starts directly, and like, unless you're like, I don't know, like referred by someone. So I started like selling iPhones and stuff like that. And I actually learned a lot there. Like I learned how to work with customers, and I don't know if you've ever been at an Apple store on a Sunday, but it's like the angriest people come there on Sundays. Like I've been threatened by people because their phones broke or something like that. And they're like, why do you make such cheap devices? And like, I paid $800. I'm like, I'm sorry. And like, I couldn't say anything really. I couldn't be an asshole back to them, anything. Like I learned a lot how to, like, maintain patience and cool, calm, and collected on those kind of situations. I'm very grateful for that time, but man, people are
crazy. So I worked at, so I've had a job actually since I was like 14. I don't think it was legal for me to have a job, but I've worked since I was like 14. And I worked in Tesco's throughout my degree in Scotland. We are super, super privileged to have a degree funded for us. Cool. Yeah, it's very cool. But that said, I studied law, and I think I was one of, I think I could count on one hand how many people in my year worked a job while studying. So most of them had their sort of rent and everything paid for them. And I think I was only one of like really a handful of people who also worked a part-time job. Yeah. So I worked at Tesco's, and I can relate because I worked in the checkouts, but I also worked on the customer service desk. So when people's 2 for 3 offers didn't go through, they'd come and see me. I actually, do you know what? You've just reminded me. I did a stint on our tech desk at Tesco's when they set that up and they started selling electricals, which is so funny. But I don't think you can downplay the type of skills that you build during those kind of jobs.
Those people skills, very, very important.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right as well. Sometimes you have to sometimes you have to take a job and it might not be where you want to get to, but
exactly.
You need to check and you need the stability. And the saying goes, it's always easier to get a job whilst you have a job.
Very, very true. That's like an important thing. I have people who like ask me now, like, hey, I want to get into cloud computing, but I don't want to start at like Helpdesk or any like entry level. I just want to go straight to that. And it's hard for me to relate with that mindset just because my journey has been so different. But it's like, it's so easy for us to dismiss the things that we can actually learn from these entry level positions. Like, and that what you learn from like moving your way up. I once tweeted this, what if everyone in tech started at Helpdesk? And I think it went viral, but I had a lot of interesting, I had to mute it, but there was a lot of interesting opinions in there. Like a lot of people who actually started there, but there was also people who were saying like, oh, that's gatekeeping and that kind of stuff, because you are ultimately it's a customer service job. You are there to like fix people's issues. And there are certain social skills that you'll need to develop and things like that. And that's not like everyone's strength, or maybe people don't care for those kind of skills. But I think you also learn how to treat people decently, right? Like say now, whenever I go into an Apple store or just like a restaurant, I'm always nice, no matter what happens. I'm always like, because I know what it is to be on the other side. And I try to not make it any harder than it has to be. Like I'm in, get my food or get my item and then, thank you. And like, I'm out of there.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for that, whether everyone there's something to be said for teams and different roles shadowing other teams in different roles.
Absolutely.
Right. And I definitely think that, it depends on the size of the company, right? Depends on the different roles that you need. But I don't think that it would do any company any harm or any team any harm to spend a day or a couple of days every year, whatever, on the front line. Because, I think that gives you an appreciation for other roles, teams, responsibilities, expectations. You could probably learn how to improve processes when you're escalating up the chain. Like, it's, it's not so much about saying like everyone should start, but it's like there's a lot of value in having awareness and appreciation of where people start or where customers come in, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So okay. So your next jump was to sysadmin, is that right?
No, Helpdesk. After
Helpdesk. What we were just talking about.
After the Apple Store, I was there for like a year and a half. Like my best friend has this joke that I don't last anywhere more than a year and a half, because that seems to be about the time that I'm like, all right, I'm itching for what's the next step. So it was about a year and a half into the Apple Store gig, and I was like, all right, I got to figure out my next step. And, I must have been around, I don't know, maybe like 21-ish at that time. And because I had like, I've always been sort of smart with my money. Like, I don't really spend on like, I didn't ever want like a brand new car or $600 jeans or anything like that. It was just never been my interest. So I've always kind of just like saved my money. So I quit the Apple Store job. And it's funny that you mentioned that it's easier to get hired while being hired. So I quit it without having anything in like lined up. So I then, between quitting that and like landing my Helpdesk job, I think there was about maybe like a 3-month kind of time. And I was just like trying different things. During that time, I was like, I had like been sharpening like my programming skills and just building different like hello worlds in different languages and different like web app projects and stuff like that. So then, I landed the entry level Helpdesk role, and the experience that I had at the Apple Store helped that, because again, Helpdesk is customer service. It's a little bit more tech oriented, but I landed that Helpdesk role, and that was just a whole another world unlocked to me. Like I had thought that I had like I thought like any customer experience that I could possibly face, I've seen at the Apple Store, but boy, was I wrong. And I spent another year and a half there. But again, with Helpdesk, everyone's approaching you because they have an issue, right? No one's going to come to you just for like, I don't know, something good happened. That I mean, it might, but no. And then at that role, I made a video about this where when you're in those kind of roles, it's easier for you to be like, this sucks. Like, I hate being here. But looking back, like the things that I was exposed to at that role, like at the company that I was at, we'd have like a CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO, all those people that I would be able to like help them with issues.
Yeah.
If I needed to like set up a computer or something for that in their office, I'd go, and then they would be there. And, I like to have conversations, and then they would fill me in on stuff like, I don't know, some business move or something that they're working on. And then I would learn these kind of things. Right.
Yeah.
That's actually how I got exposed to the person who did some AWS work. I think they were like the web developer or something like that, but they were working with AWS EC2 instances. And then they showed me like, hey, this is what I'm working on. And I was like, huh. And after like that interaction, I went back to my little cubicle, and then I typed in AWS. And then that kind of like brought this whole cloud computing thing into my mindset. But yeah, if I never did that Helpdesk role, I would have probably never heard, maybe eventually, but as soon as then I heard about AWS, and then, the next step happens after that. Right.
Yeah. And then, so it was discovered in AWS that sort of sent you on a bit more of a self-taught journey.
Right.
In terms of looking for ways to learn and upskill.
So the cool thing about the Helpdesk gig was that they gave you, I think it was maybe like $500 or something like that a year for you to get certified, or any kind of, if you want to take a class or a course or anything like that. And actually here in the States, a lot of Helpdesk gigs will do that, or a lot of entry-level gigs will do that, because they know the job's going to suck. Like the hours might suck, but we have to make it a little prettier with these kind of like incentives. So that's, I guess that's a good thing for people to like keep in mind. But yeah, so I was asking around to my peers, and they were all getting things like A+ or Network Plus, or the CompTIA certifications, or some of the older Microsoft certifications. And I just had no interest in that. I remember buying an A+ book, and it was this thick. And I was like, and there was things like that I was just not interested in. Like, so once I heard about this AWS thing, and then I kept talking to them. And we also had an infrastructure team that was working on, I think, like some big data things in AWS. And then that person and the infrastructure team was the one who told me, like, why don't you look into like AWS certifications? And I was like, what is this? So I did my research, and then and this was, I want to say this was like 2015, 2016, around that time, early 2016. And there wasn't as much content and as much like, courses and stuff out there for certifications as there is now. So back then, for the AWS, I think it was the Certified Developer Associate. I found a website, found a course, I followed it, and that took me forever. It took me like 6 months. So like, because I was like brand new, like, I had some programming skills and stuff like that, but cloud computing is just a whole different world, right? Yeah. So it took me 6 months. I remember studying every single day. Like I wouldn't stop. 2 hours every single day after work. After that, like hour and a half commute back to work, and then I hated it. And I was like, sit down again, 2 hours, learn this thing, take notes, get hands-on, try to figure out what the heck is going on. And then I got certified after those 6 months. I remember taking that certification, and I passed. And I just like once I left the testing, because like testing in person back then, once I left that, I was like jumping. I was like so proud of myself. Like, yes, I did it. And then I have never felt more proud of myself, maybe up until like this past like month or so, than that moment. Because that moment, I really felt like, holy cow, I can visually see what the next step for me is. Yes. Right? Because up until then, I was just like, what am I doing with it? Like, I have this job, and I found another job, and I have some sort of interest, but I didn't know what a career was for me. Yeah. Yeah. So that moment, I was like, whoa, this thing's just like something like clicked there for me. And it's not like I figured everything out then, but at least I had like, okay, this is my next step.
Well, you probably opened a door to something that, one, interested you and you were excited about, but two, you like proved to yourself that you could open those doors for yourself. Do you know what I mean? And then you like sort of begin to see, okay, like I can maybe like take myself further, like down the road.
Exactly. Yeah, that I think you're right. Like it's a feeling that I did this for myself. Like I figured this out. Yeah, I had some people sort of hint me in the right direction and like tell you like, hey, why don't you look at this? But ultimately the end result of like actually passing that and like learning what I needed to learn, putting in those 6 months of work.
Yeah.
I accomplished it. That was like my first big moment. I was like, holy, I could do this.
Even people pointing you in the right direction, right? At the end of the day, like, I mean, I'm the same. I've had really great people that point me in the right direction. And for many years, I was just like, wow, without those people, I would. But actually, if I look back and I now know myself like a little bit more, you met those people and you had those conversations because you were looking and
That's
you
true.
had the drive to be like, I'm looking for something. I want something more. I'm going to speak to this like CXO that I've gone to help about their laptop, or I'm just going to like ask this team because what my peers are telling me and isn't interested in me. And I feel like that attitude is always one that's going to take you far.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone asked me because I tweeted like my tech career timeline and they said, interesting. Like, what if you never dropped out in 2013? And I didn't reply because I've been thinking about this, but I think like, since that was like the first step in my tech career, even though I didn't see it through, obviously it would have changed things, but ultimately my attitude towards my, like, I guess my mindset towards like, I want to accomplish something, I want to figure things out, it would have been the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have ended up at the same, like where I am now, but I definitely would have made some kind of progress. I mean, there's no way of telling, but I probably would have figured something out.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that you would have. I definitely think that that's clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you then make the jump to sysadmin?
Yeah, so after passing that certification, I did a few more months on the Helpdesk gig, and again, once it reached that 1 year and a half mark, I was like, "All right, I'm getting a little tired. It's time to find the next move." So I put in my 2 weeks. Again, not having anything lined up because when you're younger, you think you're invincible. It's like I'll figure it out, right? Yes. So. But this time, I think I put in my 2 weeks on like a Monday. On my last week, like the following Monday, I applied to, and I was also moving. I remember that. So I was moving to an area where I live now, and there's not a lot of tech companies around here, things like that, right? So I applied to this gig. It's about a 25-minute drive. It's like a sysadmin, and since it was a small company, it was like many hats, and they were pretty transparent about that in the description, but also there was like a bullet point in there that says, we're using Azure and a lot of cloud computing technologies. If you have interest in that, you'll have that ability to work on those kinds of things. So again, I wasn't looking for roles that said cloud or anything really. I just wanted somewhere that was close because I hate long commutes. That's the one thing that I can't. And with me moving, the Helpdesk gig was going to be even further. It was going to be like maybe like almost 2-hour drive. I was like, this is not worth it.
No.
So I start looking for jobs in the area, and I find this one, and I apply, and I get a call back. And then they say, hey, we'd love to have you come in for an interview. So I go into the interview, and right off the bat, like I hit it off with who would eventually become my boss. Really cool guy, like really easy to talk to, and he also asked questions in a way that I felt like I was having a conversation with just like a human being. Like I wasn't being drilled. I was more than just like skills and bullet points on a resume. Yeah. We're just having a conversation. He was impressed that I had passed like the certification and the help desk experience and all that kind of stuff, and we also had like sort of this bonding moment because there's this book called The Phoenix Project. I think I've spoken to you about it, but it's like one of the most popular IT books out there, yes. Like DevOps books out there, right? And I had just finished reading that book then around that time. And then we were waiting for I believe the CEO to come in and do the next round of interviews with me. Mm-hmm. And he was like, hey, what kind of books are you into? Just casual conversation, just small talk. And I tell him that, and he's like, no way, I'm reading that book right now. So we have sort of like a back and forth talking about the book and how we like the story and just different things like that. And then I could tell then that I like, oh, that's like little bonus points for me. Because not only am I showing that I have the skill set, but I also have interests outside of like, developing myself outside of a role. Mm-hmm. And that's important, especially when you're looking for like sort of these entry level jobs. Like these companies are interested in people.
Especially at those companies where you need to wear many hats. I honestly think that those kind of roles are the best roles.
Yeah, I think for figuring out what you want to do, those kind of roles are just like perfect. I mean, but though I think now in my career, if I had that kind of role, I kind of might lose my mind a little bit. But but anyway, back then it was perfect. So we have the conversation. I meet with us, I think CIO and CEO, something like that. It was like 3 different people. At one point there was like, I think 3 people in there with me, and we were just having a conversation. It was great. The entire time it was a nice, a nice experience of an interview. And then I got a call back on Friday. So like my last Friday at my current job, I get a call back from this gig, and they make me an offer, I counter, and then, we settle on a number and stuff like that. And I had just doubled my income then with that move, like from what I was making at Helpdesk to that.
I love the fact that you were offered, you were on the last day of your job, and you countered, well done.
Yeah, I was so scared. I'm not going to act like I was tough or brave.
It is very scary.
Because I was like, I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't have any offers, but I was playing it like, oh, hey, I have a couple of interviews that I'm working on. So, just let me know. And then they made me an offer, and I was like, I'm kind of looking for more of this. And I obviously said a higher number than what I wanted. So we settled lower at what I wanted. And I swear I was so scared. I'm like, no, after I sent the email with the counter, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. No, now they're going to say no and things like that.
But I think I am. They're going to,
Yeah. And every single offer after that, I've countered as well. Just because it's just like a thing, I guess, that you're supposed to do or anything.
I learned that a bit later on in my career, but it's definitely a thing that you should do.
Yeah. And then I started there, and the sysadmin in gig. And that was, again, I did about 1.5 years there. But that was just a time that changed my career completely, because again, you're wearing different hats. You're in, since it's a smaller company, medium-sized company. This is also what I tell people, like, yes, we all want to work at, no, well, not we all, but many of us want to work at those like FANG, those big tech companies. And that's great. If that's your goal, absolutely go for it. But if you're looking to get into the field, and you might not be aiming for those bigger ones, these small to medium-sized companies can offer you, competitive salaries, sometimes like remote, I mean, especially now, like remote options, but back, then like remote options or maybe some kind of perks and things like that, because they know they have to, be competitive to be able to get talent to come to them instead of going on to the bigger ones. Right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes with smaller teams, you have the opportunity to hop on projects that you might not have at bigger teams. Right. So, starting at the sysadmin gig right away, it was like everything, like there was scripting and I remember I was doing some C# development, on some stuff, and I had to learn everything from scratch, but I had like the coolest manager who I'm still really close to this day. Like we check in every so often, and every move that I've made in my career since then, I've like spoken to him about it, and he just like continues to tell me like he's proud and keep going and stuff like that. And that's also like a thing that I try to talk about a lot, is that hiring managers have so much power in their hands in terms of like providing opportunities to people who just need a chance. Like I knew I was willing to work. I knew I had the work ethic. I knew that I could figure it out. I just need someone to take a chance on me. And this person happened to be like that for me. But yeah, put me on a bunch of projects. About 1 year in, I think I was like, I know that I want to focus on cloud. I just know that this is what I wanted to do. I had to learn Azure from scratch because I like my 6 months or whatever time studying was AWS, but I leaned into it. Like, if this is what I was going to be able to get opportunities doing, then I'm going to learn Azure. So I leaned into Azure, leaned into .NET, and I did have to work like maybe sometimes like weekends, or sometimes a little longer, or sometimes I was just like super stressed because I was on like a bunch of projects, but I've managed somehow, and eventually that led to a promotion to cloud engineer at that same company. Also, another thing that I tell people, sometimes you can move up within versus like having to move at a different company. And it's easier when you have like, the rapport, the experience at a current place, or if there's certain projects that you can use to, make your case. Like I had made something with Azure Functions that like saved the company, and like not only money, but like 20 hours work, like time of like the specific team, where they had 20 hours a week back to them to actually do like not this manual work anymore that I was automating. So I was able to use that project to like, hey, I deserve a promotion, and an increase in salary, and that kind of stuff. So that then I had like another, like the rest of my time there was pretty much on cloud stuff. And yeah, I just took that. I just rode that to like however long I could in about a year. And I think right when I got the promotion to cloud engineer, I think I had started wanting to create content. I've always wanted to. Remember back when I said when I was trying to decide between majoring in computer science or journalism, I always had an interest in content, but I just never thought I was interesting enough, or never thought I had something to share, which is a very flawed opinion and mindset to have. But yeah, I started my YouTube channel. It was around the pandemic when it started, like March of last year. Yeah, March of last year. I started my YouTube channel, and I was just like creating stuff of like what I was doing on my day-to-day, like a lot of Azure Function stuff, a lot of Azure things in general. And then I started realizing that I enjoy doing that a lot more than actually being a cloud engineer, which was crazy for me to accept. And I was in denial for a long time because I always thought like once I have that cloud engineer title, life will be great. Like that's my career. Like I figured it out. But then the idea of that, I enjoy doing something else more. I was in denial. It's like, no, because you've worked so hard to get where you're at now. Like, why do you want something different? Yeah. But I couldn't fight that, like just the urge to like do the thing that I liked more. So I started doing YouTube videos and sharing, and then people started picking up on it and that kind of stuff. And I left the cloud gig August of last year, I believe. And then I didn't have anything lined up. I was just kind of like consulting, because around that time, we could probably get into this a little deeper, but I had become an Azure MVP, and then I was on Azure Friday with Scott Hanselman, and then I was on Cloud Skills FM with Mike Pfeiffer, and like a bunch of people were bringing me on to just have like conversations, and they like, it really helped grow my sort of social media presence and the brand and stuff as well. Yeah. And I got consulting gigs, and anyway, but yeah, I'm getting probably a little ahead of myself.
That's okay. That's okay. I love that. I think when you have the mindset that you want better for yourself, you want something and you work really hard towards it. When you get thrown a curveball that says, actually, here's this other thing that I really like doing, you feel like this guilt, and it's almost like that sunk cost fallacy, but actually it's one of those ones that doesn't actually make sense. To dwell on it too much. I definitely say follow what you enjoy. 110%. That is an excellent piece of advice. How did the MVP thing come about?
So I think it was in 2019. At the end of the year, like December, they did this 25 days of serverless kind of thing, where they would put like challenges for you to do up until the 25th of December. And I had done a couple of them, I think maybe up to 10 or something like that. And I had like 10 followers on Twitter or stuff like that. But one of them was, I don't know if you're familiar with Simona Cohen. She's a dev advocate at Microsoft. And I think she had been doing some of the challenges. So she found me through the hashtag, I guess, on Twitter and followed me. And like, she was encouraging me and things like that. And because of her, I was like, because of her and her encouragement and things like that, I was like, maybe I should just like share more of the stuff that I was doing. And then I took like a couple months to sort of figure that out. But then March came along, I started doing the YouTube channels, and she was still there, like supporting me. And then I remember her messaging me something like, the videos you're doing are so cool. I'd like, have you thought about like, being an MVP? And I kind of had that thought in my mind, but it was never a goal, really. I just thought like, that would be cool, but me. So, I kept doing my videos, and I think it was in perhaps May-ish of last year that I got nominated by 2 people for MVP, and August or something like that, I think was the first time when I actually got it, like to get the email, like, congratulations, you've been selected, that kind of thing. But yeah, it really comes down to just, I was posting 1 to 2 videos every single week starting like March. So about that time I had like multiple things. Also been sharing stuff like on Twitter and just a lot of it has been thanks to the community sharing my stuff, and like, the outreach has been insane. I got nominated and I got it, and it was such a crazy moment. Another one of those moments where I was like, wow. But also I also felt like, because it's not something that you can apply for. Like there aren't like guidelines you got to check or anything. Like there's no, you just, it really is just like create quality, authentic content and like help. That's really it. Like, but that's like that's so abstract that it's hard to like be like, oh, well, am I doing right? Am I doing it wrong? So it's also, I don't know if you've had this, but it's also like major imposter syndrome, because it's like, yes, I have this, but I don't really know. I mean, I know what I did, but I don't know.
It's definitely imposter syndrome. I am not a technical person. So then I was like, no, I can't, you've got that wrong. Are you sure it's me? But I think that's such a good report. So that's really interesting, right? So we both had that as something that was like, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But none of us were like working towards that. We were doing our own thing for ourselves and for anyone that would help. And that, I think, is such a key point right now. I see so many people creating content, amazing content, but sometimes I wonder, is this just tick box content for an application?
Yeah.
That's probably really controversial to say, but hey, that's what we're here for.
I love it.
But the thing is, I think you can tell. So
you can absolutely tell.
You can absolutely
it's so easy to
tell. And I've noticed that a lot recently as well with like, so scheduling tweets and stuff, right, is a big thing these days. And I get that. I get why you would want to do that. I get that it would be beneficial. I'm someone that really needs to put more effort into thinking about how and when I share my content to get followers and stuff. But at the end of the day, it still is not the main goal of mine to become like, I don't even know, like to gain all the followers or to do all the, like, I feel like some people must get to a follower account. I mean, it's way off for me, but where it's almost so huge, you lose that like quality of engagement.
Yeah.
And that's just not where, like, that's not my goal, but you can tell that some people are so focused on that. And then I just scroll past because I'm like, well, I can tell that this isn't authentic or it isn't in the moment.
Yeah. So
I think I'm at the other end of the spectrum, right? I probably need to do some more about like scheduling and reshare my episodes, etc. at good times. But and like, like, I tried to do it this week. I also tried to schedule some posts for like some Dell content. And I forgot it was there. And then people were liking it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not in the zone right now, you know? And I mean, that could be just me. I'm sure there's loads of people that have had huge success with this kind of thing. But I do feel that you can tell.
Yeah, I think so too. With social media and it's more YouTube, because that's more like my bread and butter. I've never allowed the algorithm to dictate what it is that I have to do. Like these platforms are here for me to use them, not for them to use me.
Yes.
I don't like my voice, who I am, my character doesn't change or doesn't adapt to what people want to see, people want to like, people want to retweet, people want to subscribe to. No, I'm here to share my experiences, what I've done. I'm not here to tell you what you need to do. I'm just here to tell you what's worked for me. And if that works for you, if you get anything out of it, fantastic. If it doesn't, you can dislike, whatever it is that you want. You can leave hate comments. It doesn't change my next move, right? My next move is decided 100% by me.
Yes.
In terms of like social media, like the negative part of it, because I know you and I were talking about this. It just is not worth my time. It never has been, because I'm just so preoccupied in what is good for myself and my loved ones that to spend any energy in any of the kind of that stuff is like a disservice to my peace and to my loved ones. Like instead of like worrying about what I have to tweet tonight, why don't I just have dinner with my partner who's here for a limited time? Why don't I help my little sister with her homework and things like that, right? That's going to make me a better person, and that's going to make my content better, right? Yes. I could care less about like
and I
following some algorithm or anything like that.
The whole point of, well, it depends, right? But I would say, so I very much started my podcast for me, right? So I started my podcast for me because, one, I wanted to have a go at these things and see if I could do it and maybe learn some new skills. Two, I love to talk, in case anyone hasn't noticed.
But you're great at it, by the way.
But I thought to myself, like, I want to connect and meet and have these kind of discussions with new and awesome people. Right. And like, I enjoy it. So I was like, I'm going to do this for me. And, you know, at the beginning, people were like, these episodes are too long. And I was like, okay, don't listen to them. Like,
or stop or pause, whatever, you know.
There's episodes out there that are 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Like, go consume that content. It's still awesome. But at the time I was really into listening to long podcasts and going on walks and stuff. So that's just like the road I went down. And also I feel like if you are not being like authentic in your content, then I'm not really sure what you're doing, because you're not helping anyone.
You're not helping yourself.
No, you're causing yourself probably stress, because when I have my guests on these podcasts, I want us to be so ourselves, so that one, we can show other people it's okay to be yourself.
Yeah.
And actually being yourself is the best thing to do. And that two, you might be like, oh, I relate to that thing that Lisa said, or I had a similar experience to Gwyn, or like, and then you see something in yourself in that person, and then you think, well, I can do that too, because that's what we need in tech, especially, but in the world, is like representation and seeing other people who are being authentically themselves to inspire other people to do the same. And like, yes, I went and got like a flashy intro and an outro made and like some presenter plates and branding, but I am focused far more on what I'm doing right now in this call with you. Like, I love these calls because actually they are so good for being present and mindful, because we're not thinking about anything else right now. Exactly. Like, I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking my emails. Like, I love this time. I always come out feeling so refreshed after it. And I feel like that's what you need to bring to creating your content. Absolutely.
Like, people are so focused on, what am I supposed to talk about? What am I supposed to share? You know, it's at the end of the day, nothing is new, nothing is unique, everything has been done. What is unique is how you deliver things, right?
Yes.
How you speak about things, what your actual opinion is. And if there's, so you can be who you are and, you know, be a decent person, and other people can be who they are and have their own journeys. Those two things exist. Like, you don't have to like, you know, follow other people or do what other people think. Like, you can be yourself and at the same time, you know, encourage other people and be part of a community, right? I think we get so lost in like what community actually is. Right. And then it's kind of easy to be like, oh, they're doing this, let me do that too. Or they're doing this, they're talking about this, let me talk about this too. Or like they're talking, whatever that is. But no, I think that, like you said, the best thing we can do is be just so authentically ourselves, and that will encourage and empower other people to be themselves. The bad thing is other people might be, you know, terrible people. and like, but like, isn't that good? Don't you really want to see the true colors of someone? Like, don't you really want people to be who they are? And that way you can decide if you want to associate with them or learn from them or whatever. Like, I'd rather be that than like some person who's just putting out this image and then they show their true colors. And I'm like, oh, this whole time it's been a lie, that kind of stuff. Right. Anyway, I'm not going to let an algorithm dictate who I am.
No, that's the other thing. Like, I put up the question the other week, so I was like, right, I'm going to get back into podcasts. I said, I'm going to set a schedule of every second week. And that's because if I was to do one a month, I would leave it to the last minute. But if I was to do one a week, it's just too much for me. So I was like, right, let's go with this every second week. And then I was like, right, I'm going to publish on a Friday, because I've always published on a Friday. And then everyone was like, I appreciate the feedback, because I don't know any of this, but they're like, actually tech content is more Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I was like, I kind of like Fridays. Like,
I don't care.
I was kind of like, well, I really like Fridays. And if all that tech content is out there on a Tuesday and a Thursday, then one, I'm competing with them. But two, again, I'm doing this for myself, and I'm doing for people who like genuinely like to listen. And want to go on a walk on a Friday lunch and listen to it. Or like, the other thing is I think we forget that content's out there for the rest of time. So yes, there is a load of like, I think there's like bonus things that happen in the like how much interaction it gets in the first hour, but it's there for like other people to consume at their leisure.
What I will always say is good content will find its way no matter what. If it's quality and it's you being yourself, it's gonna be successful. That it just is what it is. Like, you can have this crap content, you can have the best thumbnails, the best thing, people will watch it and instantly know that I'm never going to watch this person again.
Because you need connection, right?
That's the thing. Like, we're shifting, like, I think everyone's shifting into this mindset of like, we're done with Hollywood. We're done with overly produced things. We're done with like being lied to. We're done with the gatekeeping. Now it's really prime time for people who are just themselves to show and to share and to like continue to grow and that kind of stuff. Those people will like make it to the top. Those people who want to continue lying and like be dictated by other things or these mysterious guidelines,
and just tick boxes. Like all of a sudden I'm going to support women in tech. Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to update my Twitter bio to say, like have like a hashtag or something like that. Like, what is thanks? Oh, thank you. Like, thanks for that hashtag, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like we said at the beginning, we probably dive deeper into these certain things, and it's true. But ultimately, like, just focus on you, right? Focus on what you want to do.
Another good point, actually, that you said there about like being confused about what community is. I think as well, there's this, I'm not sure where it's come from, but there seems to be this expectation to share and shout out people. And so if someone chooses to shout out me, they've chose to shout out me. If they've done that with some kind of expectation that I need to then shout them out back, that's not my problem.
No, but it's also like your intention wasn't pure at the beginning.
When I share without intention and expectation, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, because like I say, it's because I'm very like, it's there and I'm in the time and I'm like, oh my God, I love this person. And yes, they're like, whatever. People can message me and ask me to share their stuff and I absolutely will. And I have done, but again, I've done it for people who I've interacted with and I really like.
Yeah.
There seems to have been a flurry of requests or people commenting on other people's content that they need to shout out people. And I'm like, no. And there's definitely this weird expectancy and the sort of entitlement that's kind of come about. Yeah. But again, I think it comes from the circles that are, or the, where the root of the reasons for doing things are not authentic. And again, it's visible. With like becoming MVP, you get these messages all the time. Like, hey, I want to be an MVP. Can you nominate me? Stuff like that. I'm like, I don't even know you. Like who, like that's the first thing. Like there's no introduction. There's no like wanting to build a relationship there thing. Here's an interesting story. Like I landed, so the cloud advocate role that I've landed at Microsoft now, I got because I was recommended for the role by 2 people. And again, we're talking about building honest relationships, authentic relationships without like, if someone shouts me out, that's awesome. That's great. I appreciate you. If we have a rapport, that's, it's fantastic. But for me, I value a lot more like the private conversations that I have with people. Yes. So anyway, I got recommended by 2 people. One was Simona, who I've known since 2019, has been an amazing supporter. And then Christian Wamba, who's a developer advocate at Microsoft as well. I did with him last year, Serverless September. We did like live streams every Friday and we did the Create Serverless event. We did a workshop together. And then after that, we became friends. Like we have this shared interest in music production and DJing and stuff like that. So we've just been in video games and we've just been friends since then. Yeah. And then I had approached him, asking him questions about the role. And then he was like, hey, apply for it. We're going to we'll recommend you. And then because of that, I ended up getting the role. But I never thought like I'm going to become friends with him because I need a referral or stuff like that. No, that was never the mindset to like get things out of people. It's like, if we genuinely connect, that's a plus for both of us. Yeah. Right. I don't understand the like, oh, I do something because I want something from you. An excellent point that, of course, shout outs, sharing, following, hashtags, sharing people's content, brilliant ways to support each other in the community. There are also a plethora of other ways to support each other in community. And whether that's having like one-to-one calls in the DMs, had a difficult day, got a situation, don't know how to deal with it, advice on where to go and learn, stuck on a problem, helping to solve it out. There's a whole bunch of other ways. If you think the only way to be helping out in community is doing shout outs, you're not community, right? It's not authentic community.
I'd encourage you to dive deeper and find like people you can have like build real rapport with, because like tweets are fantastic, but in like these public things are fantastic, but there have been times that I've that people have like, maybe I was off in a video or I said something, like people had messaged me personally like, hey, I noticed you were a little off, like, are you okay? And then it was just some complete stranger. And then from that day, like we started having like a back and forth, and then like people who like never met me in person, but like we've established a friendship because you've reached out and those things like that. And now if there's anything I could ever do for these people, if they ever asked me for help, of course I'm going to do that, because you had my back in the first place. Like that matters to me a lot more than like, oh, here's a list of 10 people that you should follow, and then they mention me, and I'm like, I'll like it, I'll be like, thank you for mentioning me, but
yeah, like, I think that's such a good point, right? What you should be using these platforms for, or creating content for, whatever, like we said, just to be yourself, do it for whatever goal that you have, learn new skills, become better at speaking, etc. But the other thing is that's the beauty in social media and Twitter. It's the connections that you make. And that's what I went into. I knew I wanted to be part of the tech community more last year. I'd been in and out over my career, but my career is like, sometimes I had time or it would fit really well, and the other times it didn't. And this moving into the Dell job, etc., I was like, it's definitely time to get back in. And the reason I wanted to get back in genuinely is because I'd always really enjoyed the people that I spoke to. I'd always really enjoyed the conversations that I had, the events that I attended. And I was like, I want to get back into that. And I think I could like do something in this space. I had no idea what it was, but it was for connection, like 110%.
Yeah. So we're in tech, we're so focused of like building the skill set. What language should I learn? What framework should I learn? Where we always forget that we're human beings. So like finding these pockets where we're allowed to just talk to each other as human beings we need more of this, right?
Yes, we do.
What were we even talking about at the beginning?
I do not even know. But let's spend do you know what? I honestly could go on for another half an hour. Maybe we need to do an extra episode. But
we could. Yeah.
Yeah, we absolutely could. Or we can, let's get some ideas going on what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for the last couple of minutes, because actually I've got a special interview in like 7 minutes.
Okay.
Oh my God, before anybody freaks out, it's not an interview for my job. I'm not leaving to my boss. It's actually to be a board member for a charity. So I'll let you guys know if that goes well. Cool. But yeah, let's spend the last couple of minutes focusing and celebrating on the fact that you are about to be a cloud advocate at Microsoft, because how exciting is that?
Yeah, it's quite surreal, but I think because of like just the stuff that has happened to me like past couple of years, I've sort of like run out of emotions. I think, also being online and being like so public, it's like you're always kind of like on, right? You always have this like this like you I feel like you spend emotions more
we discussed
because of that. Yeah,
we discussed struggling to feel proud.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a big accomplishment, of course, and it wasn't until like this past week where I got to celebrate like my birthday with my family and my partner, but also we celebrated the fact that I had landed this role that I've always wanted, right? I've in at a company that I've always wanted to do, even when I was like working at the Apple Store, and you're like Microsoft just always seemed cool to me. Even though it used to be seen as like the nerdy place to work at, or like the anti-open source place, anti-Linux place to work at, I always had something, was just always interested in Microsoft to like work there. So, and especially like back in 2019 when I started doing like the 25 days of serverless challenges that they were putting up, like I was like, this is so cool. Like you get to create these things that people can actually like do for free and get hands on, and like you'll share them, and all you're doing is encouraging them, and you're sharing your knowledge of the technology. I was like, this is so cool. And then, I did the YouTube channel for a year, which I pretty much did an advocate role for free for a year. That's like, people ask me like, how did you land the role? It's like, well, I did it for free for a year. I just didn't do it for like any company or any goal in mind. I kind of just like got myself the experience. And then, I recently spoke about this, that I had applied to Microsoft twice before and rejected both times, different roles, not advocate roles.
I was
like, yeah. And I never stopped. Like for me, like, there were rejections, but it wasn't like, you're never going to work here. I always felt like, all right, I'll try again. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I have to say that a lot of it is also figuring out what I actually am good at, but what I actually enjoy doing. Cause you find a balance there where it's like, well, when you're good at something, you enjoy doing it, and, you're getting positive feedback. Like that's probably what you should lean into. Yeah. And for me, it was this balance of like engineering and content creation, which is advocacy. So landing the role, it was like a long, and as like big tech places, like the interview process is long. Even like the pre-onboarding process was longer for me. and But yeah, I start by the time this is out, like you mentioned, I just had my first day there, and it's surreal. Yeah, I don't think I sort of, I'm 50-50 on this. I don't know if I ever thought I would have landed it, but like my ego is like, oh, of course you were going to get it, right?
I know that.
So like,
I know that feeling. There's like a voice deep down inside that's like, of course we're going to land that. But the other side is like, oh my God.
You don't want to be too hopeful about it. Yeah. I mean, I plan on like, I know we could have like more conversation about this. I plan on talking a little bit more about this, like, you know, on my channel and stuff like that. But I mean, all my journey is like public. Like you can go to YouTube and watch like the videos. You'll see my progression as like things that I've been doing and things that led me. And I'm open about like how I got here. So if anyone wants to like talk to me about it, I'm 100% open to having a conversation.
Yes, awesome. I think that's another really good thing to do, is to go back, and I think everyone sees sort of, because we've went content crazy, we've went online crazy because of the pandemic. Again, that's why I felt I had to get some flashy intro videos and all that done, because everyone else is, right? But if you go back to the people like that you really look up to, like other cloud advocates and stuff, and if you go back, like scroll through a few years of their blogs, one, notice the consistency. That is a problem I struggle with and we're trying to deal with. But notice the consistency, and also look at like how they have grown in terms of the quality and the presentation of their content. They did not start out like that. And yes, because you have them to learn from, and you can, you know, you maybe don't need to start just exactly where they started, but you do need to, everyone is a beginner.
Yes.
At some point. So you have to like, please embrace that and stop trying, do not try and skip the step. The sooner you just embrace that you need to begin and become a beginner, the quicker you'll get to where you need to go. Stop trying to like, what is it called? Like take a shortcut. Yeah, no, it never works. And being a beginner, there's so many gifts in that. Like you learn so much of who you are, but also like, is this really for me? And if you see it through, then yes, it might be for you. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know there's a saying, like, so for instance, like when you look at a millionaire or you look at like a CEO of a job or a cloud advocate or whatever, you can't just take that one part of them. You have to take all of them. Everything. And you don't know. You do not know. You see that they have a certain number of followers and you see that they have a job, but you don't know who they are as a person, what else they've got going on, what that job's really like. So you can't just take the highlight reel. No, you can't. Absolutely. Exactly. So we're going to finish up because I don't want to be late. Absolutely. Yeah, we don't want that. But this was amazing. And I definitely think that we should schedule in, like once you've been 6 months in the role, let's have a catch up. Yeah, definitely. And let's do it. What does it actually mean to be a cloud advocate? Because I think a lot of people think, and I'm sure that it is, a great role, full of fun, full of content, definitely aligned to what you do. But you're in a big company. You're in a business. Absolutely. You're in a company that has processes, procedures, needs to make sales. There's politics, you know, it's not just like there's good and bad, right? Like everything. Exactly. So yeah, can't wait to have you back. Wish you all the best. And we'll talk again soon. All right. This was amazing. I'm sure we'll talk soon, and bye to everybody. Bye-bye. See you later.